Hi everyone, this was meant to be week 3, but I skipped it to week 4 instead because I had cat emergency. So, I have something really cool for you guys hopefully next week, which is someone else is going to deliver this, or they'll deliver it with me. And it's all about when you're in the moment of exams, how to deal with anxiety, pressure, with stress, breathing, and all these cool techniques. They'll hopefully come and do the session with me next week. For this week, it's been fairly low key. We're all on, most of you are on holidays. So, final 24 hours. What does your final 24 hours before an exam look like? So we've gone backwards a week to setting the scene. So my 24 hours before used to be, oh no, I haven't studied enough. I'm going to try and drink my body weight in Red Bull and coffee. Stay up all night till 3 a.m. Get very little sleep. Sleep in too late. Get to my exam stressed. Run into my exam. Do we think this is the most efficient way? No. But we do it anyway. Well, I do it because I'm not very smart. Well, we all know that. Sucker for punishment, creature of habit, not very smart. All of the above is why I do. But actually, again, what's the key thing? What's the key driver with all our bad exam habits? What is generally driving it? We thinking logically, or what are we thinking with? Starts with A. So being driven by anxiety. Intrusive thoughts like, I'm going to fail. If I don't sit up for 24 hours before the exam, I'm going to fail. When in reality, if you get to the final 24 hours and you're going to fail regardless. What you do in that last 24 hours, what you try to cram in, is not going to stick. We've all experienced the fact it's not going to stick. The science says it's not going to stick. But we still do it anyway. Are we thinking logically? No, probably not. Being driven by a hamster wheel spinning in your mind called anxiety. So this week's pretty relaxed. It's just going through, setting the scene. What do I do before? What should I, even down to what you should wear. Science says that there's certain clothes you should wear for an exam. I said last night I was going to be short, and I end up rambling on for an hour. So maybe I will make this short. Never know. I do like a good rant. So next week, one of our tutors, hopefully, either present it tonight or maybe change the time. We'll just do an extra recorded session for you guys on how to, if you do get into an exam where you are studying and you do start to feel that panic and terror creep in, how do you actually deal with that? Me, I would just study more and not sleep less. But we know that's not the best. So anyone, there's the 7 Ps. I've altered it slightly because of the audience of you guys. Proper preparation prevents pretty poor performance. So take a few minutes and decide what you think is, what do you think this means? So what does the 7 P's mean? What does this mean to you? So, well, it says if we revise weekly, so if we prepare properly, we won't have to have the last minute cramming session. Anyone else? Yep, so the idea is if you prepare, you won't need to do things that negatively affect your performance. So you prepare correctly and you'll have a better outcome. Don't, and you'll feel the need to cram, and which will negatively affect your preparation. You have a poor preparation, then your outcomes will be poor. Well, poorer than had you revise. So, who's got through what we call an open book exam with absolutely every piece of information they could have taken in? Okay, so fellas has never done one. More common at the higher level. You end up, what they do is they make it an open book exam. What they do is they make that open book exam significantly harder than the closed book exam would have done. It's my second year of uni, some random elective subject called Energy in the Earth's Environment, and it was all about climate change and all that stuff. Basically, something to boost your GPA. But we could take one side of an A4 piece of paper as notes. Take a guess what I did. How did I approach that exam? Do you think I studied and tried to understand everything? Well, that would have been the smart thing to do. But as we know, I'm not very smart. So what I did was I made lines of about half a centimeter on my page, all the way down. And then I wrote basically the entire textbook on that page. Every chapter we had, I wrote about. You know what I spent most of the exam doing? trying to figure out what I've written. I actually had an email from that lecturer a few months after the exam saying that was impressive because it was the most you'd ever seen crammed on a piece of paper, but it was obvious in my exam that I didn't actually understand. I just had everything written down. Still got a really good grade, but had I just actually studied, I probably would have gotten even better grade. So if you're given the opportunity to take notes or books in, if you're given the opportunity to take notes, just draw pictures, diagrams, flowcharts, basic overviews of things. If you're given the opportunity to take a textbook in, which is not very often, little tabs, those little sticky note tabs with notes on them. So this topic is on this page. But what an exam isn't often testing your knowledge. It doesn't test that you just know stuff. It tests that you understand things. So if you get an open book exam, make sure you are actually understanding the topics, because then when you get to your exam, just because you have the information in front of you doesn't mean you understand how to apply it to the question. So just because you know stuff and you have that stuff in front of you doesn't mean you can apply it to an exam question. So what do you think I mean by units? This is more for like maths and science with this one. So if I ask you how many centimeters in a meter and you write 100 milliliters, is that the right answer? So you've got 100, which is the right number. But then you put the wrong units. I don't know why I'm writing that. You can't see what I'm writing. You have the wrong units. So if your teacher is feeling generous, they'll give you three quarters of the total marks, because technically the answer is wrong. So when you're writing the units, make sure they're the correct units and that you're actually writing them down. Writing the right number is important, but also the right number of units, or the right type of unit. Units is correct. So again, difference between 75% and 70% or 65% could just be your use of the correct units. And carrying those units through all the way down the answer. So the final 24 hours. Remember, you're not going, well, I say this as a general term, but you're not going to retain things that you cram in the last 24 hours. If you've studied, make sure you understand how to answer the question. The biggest thing I see in grade 12 is very bright students, but they don't end up with a, well, it used to be the OP score, they might end up with a 5 or 6. And don't get me wrong, a 5 or 6 is really good, but they had the knowledge and the understanding and the drive to get a 1 or 2, or what you call 99.95 now, with the ATAR. The big difference is they don't just try and learn the content. They understand how to answer the exam questions. And trying to explain this to people is really difficult. But who's known everything about a topic they could possibly have known, and they get into an exam and they have no idea how to apply that knowledge to the question, to an exam question. That's what I mean about the difference between the knowledge and understanding. Knowledge is knowing stuff, Understanding it is being able to apply it to a question. So if all you're doing constantly is learning new information, but before you get to the exam, you don't actually practice any questions, do you think you're doing yourself justice? Do you think you're going to get as good a mark as you possibly could? You're going to know loads of stuff. Well, where does that stuff fit? If I asked you a question about that stuff, could you use that stuff to answer my question? If the answer is no, then you need to learn that skill. So, try a mock exam. If you haven't studied, I wouldn't recommend trying the mock exam, because all it's going to do is make you realize how much you don't know. But everybody is going to be studious and study, aren't they? Yes. Yes is the correct answer. So we'll be doing a mock exam, even when you write yourself, when you find on the internet. Don't go for the hardest mock exam you can find, because half of going into an exam is going in confident. So, night before. Do we sleep? Do we cram? Do we drink our body weight in Red Bull? Do we get a good night's sleep? And the science says that you're not going to retain anything you try and cram. What you will do is send your stress levels through the roof. You don't sleep properly, cortisol level goes up. So stress hormones. Your brain doesn't work. You get brain fog. And then all of a sudden, you get into the exam and your anxiety goes up. Do you think you're thinking clearly when your anxiety is up? We've discussed this before. When your anxiety is up, you are not thinking correctly. You just want to, who sat in an exam and not even cared what they wanted to write because they just wanted to get out of the exam? Anyone? Just go, I don't even care anymore. I just want to get the stupid exam done and get out of it. So yeah, that is very common, and that is just anxiety. Your brain is going into fight or flight. This exam is a lion trying to attack you, and you want to get away from this. So hopefully Liza can do this next week, and then we can learn about some techniques to deal with that in an exam. Okay, so everyone thinks this is silly, and sometimes the seniors, it's more for just general, like your shoes, you know, just pick comfort, things you're comfortable with. Sometimes it just has to be a school uniform. As you get into the senior years, you don't need to, especially university as well. So comfort, comfort, comfort. Okay. Put the books down. 24 hours before, just put them on. This isn't opinion, this isn't from anything other than scientific fact. If you don't have something in your head 24 hours before an exam, you're not going to be able to cram it in. And we all know that because we've tried it and it doesn't work. And again, you won't understand. You might be able to learn a new piece of information in 24 hours. But actually being able to apply that to an exam question is a whole nother thing. So, talking about anxiety, the biggest way to induce anxiety in someone is usually to make them late. Sat in traffic, raging at everyone around you. So, leave early, give yourself plenty of time. get to the exam, wherever it is. If it's first thing in the morning, I mean, if it's after lunch at school, that's different. But if it's first thing in the morning, get there nice and early. Get in the zone. Okay, this is where my exam's going to be. Cool. I'll sit here and chill for a bit. So that's the 24 hours leading up to the exam. What about during the exam? Anyone answered an exam question and then realized it actually answered something completely different when they went back and reread the question? Or you read half the question, assumed what the answer should be, got to the end and got, oh, whoops, I actually read the question properly. Everyone has, I can assure you of that. So read and reread and reread. The whole point of the perusal time that they give, sometimes 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the beginning, is so that you read the questions and you don't immediately start writing stuff down. You've got time to mull over how you're going to answer the questions without having a pen in your hand. When you've got a pen in your hand, you're not worried about what you're reading, you're worried about what you want to write. So when you're reading the question, put your pen in. Just read the questions without the pen in your hand. I know it sounds silly, but try. So this is the big one. Who struggles to finish exams, even though they know the answer to all the questions? So that would be me. Done that loads of times. I dedicate my time to the question I can answer with the most. And then all of a sudden I've got 2 questions finished in the last 10 minutes. So look through the questions and just put a little timer next to them. How long should this take? How much should this take? I have 2 hours for this exam. The multiple choice should take half it if it's worth, if it's 50-50 in the multiple choice questions. Sometimes they can take longer to do the multiple choice questions properly. And then you allocate time to each of the questions. You see this all the time, people writing to the very end of the exam as well. What you should leave yourself is about 10 minutes at the end to close the exam, drift off for a minute, and then come back and reread it. But we'll get to that. So you should always have 10 minutes reading time in the beginning, and then leave yourself 10 minutes at the end. So this is very personal. What do you guys do? Let me know. So do you go for multiple choice questions? Do you answer the questions you know first? Some people will go straight for the multiple choice. Some go straight for the, they call them 3-star questions now. At the very end, it's a personal. Personally, I like to go through, answer the multiple choice, get the easy multiple choice questions out of the way. I would say if you've studied at least half of the multiple choice, you should be able to answer pretty quickly. Usually it's 1 minute per mark. So you have a 2-hour exam, there's 120 marks, 60 of those marks are multiple choice and 60 of them are short answer. Or short answer and long answer, 30 short answer and 30 long answer, depending on the subject. But you should be able to knock out 30 or 40 of those multiple choice questions in the first 10 minutes, if you've studied properly. That then leaves you lots more time to get those big questions done. What you find is those easy multiple choice questions that get your brain going. So I say about get the juices, the brain juices flowing, get those easy multiple choice questions out of the way. Those are the ones where you can look at it and you just know based on what the question says what the answer is. The only way you can do that is if you understand the topics. So we do that by properly preparing for our exam for the whole term. So those easy multiple choice questions, they get the brain juices going. Also get the confidence. Oh, I actually do know what I'm talking about. These questions are easy. Get those juices going, get the confidence up. And then once you finish it, tackle the biggest, hardest question. But even if you only get 2 lines down, that's okay. Then if you can't answer that bigger one straight up, go back to an easy one. But the idea is that the multiple choice questions will get those connections firing in your brain. Jump to the hardest question whilst those connections are fresh, and it should be easier. Then you work your way back to the harder multiple choice question. Because harder multiple choice questions are often harder to answer than the hard short answer questions. Who goes blank in exams? Anyone? So it's pretty normal. It's like a dissociative state where you just kind of stare off into space. So you might just, the brain is blocked. The longer you sit there and try to work through that brain block, the harder it will become. Jump to something else. Some people work really well. They answer 5 multiple choice and they jump to the hardest question. They jump around randomly and sporadically, which keeps that brain block from happening. They get stuck on one thing. Yeah, stuff like that. Go do something else. Different part of the exam, different question. That doesn't work for everyone. So, best thing to do if you start getting a brain block from your test anxiety, then just do something else. Because what you'll find is you do something else, that brain block goes away and you go, you jump back to that question. Some people need to work logically through the exam from top to bottom. That's completely understandable. Me, I would jump around a lot. So one thing we'll talk about hopefully next week with Liza is what to do if you do go blank. What if your anxiety does get the best of you? So most of the time they'll allow you extra paper to write notes on. We talked about getting the brain juices flowing. And even if you're going, I don't know how to answer that question, but I know stuff about the topic, so I'm just going to start scribbling and writing and drawing some flowcharts and some pictures. And eventually a picture will form in your mind and then you can answer the question. Massive yes for me. People say it's wasting time to write notes that aren't going to be in your answer, but sometimes you have to. Okay, so I say 10 minutes reading time, which is usually provided to you. 10 minutes left. You should be finished, or very close to finish. Just close the exam. Put it away. Close your eyes. Think about something else for a minute or two. Then open it back up and go through it. Think about something you like, go to your happy place, then come back and check through. Fresh eyes always pick out mistakes. So, head back, close your eyes. Okay, yeah. Think about something else. Then open your exam, and it's like looking at through a fresh pair of eyes. And you'll see lots of mistakes, and you'll see who's got to the end of their exam and then read a page of their multiple choice questions and gone, oh my God, I've answered all those wrong. Everyone has. So this allows you to just dissociate from your exam in a healthy way. And then you come back to it and it's like you've never seen it before. So that allows you to have a look at it with fresh eyes. So what about after the exam? If you didn't do well in the exam, do you think kicking yourself and getting down and not caring about anything else ever in the whole world ever again is going to change the mark you got on the exam? No. Well, yeah, it's definitely not going to change. So go do something you like doing. Just don't sit there and dwell on it. Especially if you've got multiple exams, you know, even on the same day, you might have a couple of exams, especially the senior students, but really hectic exam schedule. And a lot of them, they will have a tough time doing one exam and they throw away their whole week. They just give up. They don't care anymore. But the amount of times I have a student who, after I've tutored them to their exams, they go, I did terribly, I'm going to fail, oh, I just lost. And then that was happening on their first exam. And you know what happens most of the time when someone says, I've failed, I've done terribly? Most of the time they've actually done really well. And to throw away the rest of the week based on your thoughts on one exam, it's very common and very foolish. Okay, I said this week would be a bit more chilled, because next week we're going to jump into the cool stuff with LISA, with the